Okay. Time is 1:30, we're back on the record.
Give your name to the judge, please.
My name is Donald Parslow.
And Mr. Parslow, you're the Deputy Director of the Tucson Information Technology Department, is that correct?
Yes.
And are you prepared to testify today on behalf of the City of Tucson concerning certain of the questions that were enumerated in the Exhibit 8 of the deposition?
Yes, sir.
The first of those relates to all efforts made to identify public records and other matters requested by Cecilia Cruz from May 13, 2013 until July 23, 2013, and by whom those efforts were made. Are you prepared to answer that question?
I can answer it based upon the IT department's involvement in that.
Okay. So your ability is limited only to the IT department?
Yes.
Okay. What then was the involvement of the IT department, and starting on what date, and what did you all do?
So if we're still referring to May 13th through July 23rd,
Yes.
IT did not have a role at that point.
So nothing, the ITA did nothing during that period of time?
Yes.
Okay. So the position we're in then is, as to item number 1, the efforts made to identify public records and other matters requested by Cecilia Cruz from May 13 until July 23, 2013. The city produced, during the first portion of the deposition, a witness who was not prepared to answer that question, and today you aren't either, because you can't say what efforts the city made, you can only refer to the IT department, correct?
Yes, sir.
City IT, it's all one entity.
Yeah.
I don't agree with you on
Well-
the characterization of Mr. Castellanos, but it is what it is.
Does the city propose to have another witness who would testify as to item number 1?
Nope. You question Mr. Castellanos and you're questioning Mr. Parslow.
Sure, but Mr. Castellanos said he was not prepared to testify about item number 1.
Well, we've had 2 witnesses, so.
Okay, I just, I like Mr. Castellanos' testimony is a matter of record, so I don't need to repeat it.
Right.
I just want to be clear that, and we are clear as to this witness.
Mr. Castellanos did testify about things that the city did, so I don't agree with your characterization.
Okay.
But I'm not questioning what Mr. Parslow is saying.
Okay. When did the efforts when was the IT department first involved?
So the first time that I'm aware of that we knew about a request would be on 8/15 of 2013.
So as to item number 4, all efforts made to identify public records and other matters requested by Cecilia Cruz from July 23, 2013 until present, and by whom were those efforts made? So are you prepared to describe any efforts by the City of Tucson prior to 8/15/2013?
prior to 8:15, I have nothing to report.
Okay. And did you, were you aware that you would be presented as a witness for item number 4 prior to coming over here today?
Item number 4, yes.
Yeah. And were you made aware that you would be testifying as a witness as to item number 1 prior to coming here today?
Yes, sir.
Did you make any efforts to determine as to item number 1 what information was available to the city of Tucson prior to coming here today in response to that deposition question?
Good.
Do you mean in reference to IT?
No.
He's
Yeah.
only testifying as to IT.
Yeah, I understand, but you understand, sir, that today this is a deposition of the city of Tucson?
Yes, sir.
And you have been presented as a witness to, among other things, item number 1. And so I wanted to be clear that not only was the IT department not involved, but that you have made no examination, study, or request to learn what the city of Tucson did respecting item number 1.
Outside of IT? Could you clarify the question?
Yes, my question is, of the witness, Mr. Parslow, who's been presented by the city of Tucson as someone to testify about item number 1.
And he said the IT had no involvement.
Yes, he said that IT had no involvement. We're quite clear on that. My question's a little different. My question is did you make any efforts to inquire of people within the city of Tucson to find out what efforts were in fact made from May 13 to July 23?
I prepared to testify based upon IT's role in regards to these questions.
Okay. And not as to efforts made by the city of Tucson?
IT is part of the city of Tucson.
I understand that.
Right, so make your question reflect that. Other aspects of the city of Tucson? Other departments? We're not, you're saying that the city isn't prepared. We're saying he is prepared to testify as to IT, which is part of the city.
Yeah, I understand.
Well, then, make a clear question, and let's go on.
Look, I would ask that you proceed as an attorney according to the rules. And
That's fine, which I'm doing. I'm objecting.
yes, okay. And
You're
I'm
mischaracterizing what he's saying.
No, I'm not. So if, make.
You're acting like he's not part of the city, and he is part of the city. That's all I'm saying.
I understand. The record's clear. This gentleman works for the city of Tucson.
Right.
What I'm trying to clarify, and as an attorney you will recognize this, is that 30B6, it's a deposition of the city of Tucson. It's not a deposition of Mr. Parslow.
Correct.
It's the city of Tucson.
Right.
And the city has a choice of bringing an officer, director, managing agent, or other person who has made an inquiry and is prepared to testify on behalf of the city.
And he has made an inquiry as to IT.
Yes, and that's it. I'm clarifying that he has not made an inquiry as to other aspects within the city of Tucson. He has
question.
not made an inquiry to respond to number 1.
That's not correct.
No.
Your logic chain is faulty. He's responding to number 1 as to IT, not as to any other department.
I understand. That's what I'm trying to make clear, is that he has not made any inquiries to respond to this question on behalf of the city of Tucson.
Other than IT.
That's right, other than IT.
Okay, so, sorry.
Yeah, so we're quite clear that you have not made any inquiry as to what efforts the city of Tucson made to identify public records and other matters from May 13th until July 23, have you, sir?
I just I just prepared to respond on the basis of IT, not on any other department's behalf.
Or on any efforts made by any individuals employed any way, anywhere for the city of Tucson, correct?
Including his own?
So, again, outside the department, I did not prepare to discuss these issues. I prepared it on the basis of IT, if I'm understanding your question, I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, if any time you're not understanding my question, please let me know, and I will try to rephrase it. And I will ask if you would respond and answer my questions. Under the way that depositions work, incidentally, have you ever been deposed before?
No, sir.
Okay, so here's how it works. I ask questions. When I'm complete with my questions, your attorney gets to ask the questions he wants to ask. But I ask questions, and then you respond to the questions that I ask. If you don't understand, please ask me and I'll rephrase it. And we'll try to see if we can understand. Because you're under oath, and I want these answers to be answers that I can rely upon. And if at any time you want to discuss matters with your lawyer prior to answering my questions, you can. We can take a break and you can talk to him at any time. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Then you had told me that in response to item number 4, that the first time the IT department was involved was on 8/15/2013. Is that correct?
If I may just,
Yeah.
the city clerk sent to IT an email reflecting the request from August, I believe, 14th. At that point, I don't remember whether I read it on the 15th or the 16th, but then that's when I was aware of the request.
And did you have that request in front of you?
Yes, sir.
Can I see?
Sure.
So what you've handed me, if I can we just mark it? Is it?
It's fine with me.
Do we want to get copies or anything?
Yeah. Can we mark?
Is 14?
Yeah, I guess if it's. If I understand correctly, on August 14th, the plaintiff, Cecilia Cruz, delivered a letter of public records request to the city clerk's office. And the next day, the city clerk forwarded that to the Information Technology Department of the city. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's from my notes, I believe that's correct.
Yeah. Have you ever become aware of the request of May 13, 2013, made by Cecilia Cruz for public records?
What date was that again?
May 13th, 2013.
Yes. Yeah.
And when was the city first, well, when was the IT department first made aware of the request of May 13, 2013?
To the best of my knowledge, I received an email on 11/13. Showing me, or giving me a copy of the request from me.
Okay. Prior to that date, had the IT department been requested to provide answers responsive to her request of May 13, 2013?
I can't answer that only because the requests that we get, we weren't officially on this request. So the request would come in through the city attorney's office, and this request was part of a consolidated request. So I don't know if it was part of it or it wasn't part of it.
Well, if the request had the city attorney's office made any request prior to August 14th or 15th for assistance from the IT department to Cecilia Cruz's original request dated May 13, 2013?
Did you say prior to 8/15?
Yeah.
I don't believe so.
So then, has the city attempted at any time to assist and comply with the items requested in Ms. Cruz's May 13, 2013 public records request?
I can't specifically say yes, but we do have a consolidated request that the city attorney's office has made to us, giving us search criteria to perform searches.
Okay.
Since this one wasn't one directed straight to IT, we didn't control that, link that up.
So what do you mean by consolidated request?
Consolidated requests. So what I mean by that is, there were many requests for that topic, and so this city attorney's office consolidated all of those searches into a search for us to do.
And the many requests included whose?
I don't have the other request numbers or who they were for, and I don't recall, but I believe I believe the one that we were, I'm kind of confused which ones we're talking, so I'll tell you, I believe the one that we received in August was part of that. That's my belief, and I also believe that the, later on, the one that was directed to Mr. Martinez was part of it also. That is my understanding.
And if it was a consolidated request, how were you informed of the parts of the consolidated request?
We basically get an email with search criteria, you know,
Okay.
here's who to search, what terms to search for, and when to search.
Okay, and do you have that here?
No, sir.
Okay. What was the request and the criteria that was made at the IT department?
The actual criteria,
Yeah.
I couldn't recall.
Okay, well, what goes into the request? What items are in there?
So basically, if it's an, okay, so let me be clear about this. If it's an email request, which is what we were asked to do, then it's the accounts to search for, the terms to search for, and usually the date range to search for.
Okay. So there was a request that came for search terms, account names or accounts,
Email account, sir.
and terms. That's for like a Boolean type search, or?
Terms would be like words to pick out within the email as part of the search.
And a date range.
Yeah, some sort of date range, yes, sir.
Yeah. And but you don't know what those are. You're not prepared today to say what that request specifically involved, what the
Specifically,
terms
no,
or
no, sir.
email accounts or anything.
No, sir.
Is that information available?
A lot of that you've gotten as a result, but
I'm not sure what's included in attorney-client privilege. I can't answer if it's available or not, sir.
Okay, well, what? Was that request by email to your office?
Yes,
How does
sir.
that request
Yes,
come
sir.
in?
Email.
Okay. And what I'm saying is that email exists. You can find that email.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you said it was only an email, but they only requested that you search for email,
Yes, sir.
right? So what, by searching for only emails, what is excluded within your system that would not have been searched?
I'm sorry, could you say that again, please?
Yeah. You know, your IT system has matters within it in addition to emails, right? Doesn't it have documents, text stuff, voice stuff? What kind of stuff does your IT department have that you could search for other than emails?
What we could search for, could be any document record that you just spoke of, type of thing. Anything that's available electronically that we could actually get our hands on, we could search.
Okay. And what types of those things are there?
What types?
Yeah.
Documents on file servers, things of that nature. You know, something that's stored on our file systems.
Okay. But your request was only for emails?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that is a request that you received only on, as, well, what date was that request?
Okay, the first one, from my notes is on 9/12/2013.
So on September 12th, and was that request from the city attorney's office?
Yes.
Well, what date was that request?
Okay, the first one, from my notes is on 9/12/2013.
So on September 12th, and was that request from the city attorney's office?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in response to what you received on August 15th, did your IT department do anything concerning what the city clerk sent you?
Well, yes, that is kind of how it works. So basically, when a request like this comes in, we go to the city attorney's office to get clarification and authorization to perform a search.
And why do you do that?
Most of the times it's because the search criteria is not very clear. So, we work with the city attorney's office to refine it, and they'll work with the client or something to give us something that we can search by. So, if it's something general, we can't really do that kind of a search very well. So, we work with the city attorney's office who's familiar with our capabilities.
And that was on 9/12, that's correct?
That's when we received the request, yes, sir.
Okay. I guess the city's access and electronic record administrative directives, you're familiar with them?
I'm sure I've read it at one point, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, which one are you talking about?
Yeah, thank you.
Well, there are a lot of administrative directives.
I understand, I get to ask questions, and if you have an objection, speak up, otherwise.
Yeah, and I
let
do
me ask
object,
questions.
it's a vague question. Which, you've got an AD in front of you, which AD are you talking about? If you're gonna ask the witness about an AD, tell him which one it is.
It's under, I guess it's the,
May I see it?
yeah, sure, but I just want to make it clear, it's 1.05-3. It's a 7-page administrative directive, effective date April 25, 2012.
And the title on this, sir, is?
Well, I'm.
We're not guessing at ADs. It's about
I'm
dissemination of public
formulating
records.
a question precisely, Mr.
No, you're not. We're not answering questions about phantom ADs.
What I will draw your attention to is the section relating to electronic records.
Are you gonna show it to him? Because
Yeah,
he's not gonna answer a question about a document you're not showing him to him.
Relax.
I'm
I
not.
haven't asked a question. Relax, Dennis.
Okay, I'll relax.
Okay. There's a section on electronic records, which, and I guess what I would do at this point, short circuit this thing, is ask you to read number C, and then I'll have a question about that.
Okay.
Yep. This administrative directive, as I read it, says that the IT department of the city of Tucson will assist in the retrieval and reproduction of electronic records when requested by the city attorney's office, the city clerk's office, or the city manager's office. Is that your understanding of the city's administrative directive and rule?
That's what I read there, sir.
Yeah. And what, I guess, what my question is next is that since the city clerk had sent the IT department a request from Ms. Cruz, the one that on August 15th was received, and the city clerk is authorized to ask your assistance, why would you check with the city attorney's office?
Well, there's a couple reasons we do that, because the city attorney's office, we work with them in kind of conjunction to perform these searches. So at times, what they will do is they will see what information they can get from departments on their own. And then they'll let us know what needs to be searched after that.
And what was your understanding of what assistance the city attorney's office wanted in this case?
Email search.
And what was the IT department, would you be able to retrieve emails that the individual departments would not be able to retrieve?
Yes.
Which ones?
Ones that would not still be in there, either in a printed form or any kind of saved form. So something that wasn't in their system anymore.
And what's the time limit on what wouldn't be in their system?
That's kind of a complicated question. So as far as what wouldn't be in their system, the way the email system works is I can't tell you what, I might not even be able to find what's not in their system, because they could delete an email before it went to backup and I would never see it. So I can't tell you if I answered your question correctly.
So in the city system, emails can be deleted before it goes to backup?
Yes, that's my understanding.
And are there any time limits on that?
Well, my understanding is that we back up every day, so it would have to be done before that night's backup.
Okay. So if someone in the city sends an email to someone else, then at both ends, they would need to delete that day, otherwise it would go into the city's backup. Is that?
If you're saying somebody in the city to another person in the city?
Yeah.
That would be correct. Both of them would have to do it.
Okay.
If the other person opened it. It's a complicated issue. So if the other person opened it, then, this is my understanding, another person opens it, then you have, you can't retract it or do anything like that. If the other person hasn't opened it, the person could delete it and retract it, and then we'd have no record of it.
And if someone outside the city sends in an email, person in, let's say, the city manager's office could open that email, perhaps make a copy, and then delete it. If he does it that same day, does that go into the backup? Can he actually delete that from the system?
I believe that is correct.
Then, did you go to this city attorney's office on September 12th?
Did I go to the, I'm sorry, did I go to the city attorney's office?
What happened on September 12th?
On September 12th, we had an email that we could start performing the search.
And that's the email that you can't recall the details of?
Yes.
And that email was from whom?
That email was from Dennis.
Dennis McLaughlin.
Yes, sir.
And what did he ask you to do?
He asked us to perform a search with various criteria for a consolidated request regarding this type of issue.
And so, did you do that?
Yes, sir.
And what were the results?
The results were a bunch of emails that were put in a file for the city attorney's review, into a directory, excuse me.
Those emails were put into what?
A directory, were saved and then put into a directory.
And did that directory have a name?
I know the name would be, I don't know the specific name, but what it would be is the internal number that the attorney's office referred to it by, would be on the email, and that would be the directory name usually. I believe that's what they do. They call the directory that number and put it stuff in there.
Okay. And do you know what happened after you sent the information in that directory?
Do I really know? No, we just pretty much put the information in that directory, notify the city attorney's office that it is in that directory, and then pretty much our job is complete at that point.
Have you done anything since then about this request?
Okay, so from my knowledge, and when you say these requests, I don't mean to be confusing about this, but I just want to be clear about what we're talking about. So
Okay.
there is a consolidated request that involves, I know it involved at least the one from the 15th. It most likely, I can't really say if it involved the other ones because it was consolidated. So, and there were other requests outside of the ones that we've referred to today that were also part of that request. So it was a consolidated request on this topic to net everything in one
Okay.
request.
So, you don't know what was in the requests. Were there requests from other individuals other than Cecilia Cruz?
Well, it didn't, at that point, when we get the criteria back, it doesn't really matter who the request was from.
Sure.
Especially when it's consolidated. The important part of that is just what email accounts we're gonna search, what the search criteria is, and the range.
Okay, so for those important parts, you don't have today with you and can't testify as to what was contained within the consolidated request?
The specifics, no, sir.
No. And you don't know the specific search terms, the specific accounts, the specific terms, or the date range, correct?
Yes.
And as item number 4, all efforts to identify public records and other matters requested by Cecilia Cruz from July 23, 2013 until present, and by whom those efforts were made. Do you have any information related to item number 4 in addition to what you've testified to so far?
Yes, sir. So we've actually received, and I'm not sure if specifically, we received 3 requests that kind of applied to this grouping of information. So we received 3 separate requests. We received one on 9/12. We received one on 10/11, and we received one on 11/13.
Okay, and what did, then, 11/13, 13. So, on October 11th, what did you receive?
On October 11th, we received a set of search criteria again, but this one was in reference to the request made through Hector Martinez. I can't say it was only for that, but I believe it was due to that request we were asked to search more.
Okay. And then what did you do with the results of did you then do a search?
Yes, sir.
And when was that?
We completed the search on 10/23 and sent an email back to the city attorney's office saying we completed that request.
And did you, how do you, well, the request on October 11th, was that request from the city attorney's office asking for your assistance?
Yes, sir.
And again, do you know, was that Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Okay. And did, on October 23rd, was the response to Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes, sir.
And then on, I believe you said on November 13th, there was another request?
From my notes, yes, sir, that's what
And what was that one?
that was more on the consolidated request, just more search terms and criteria.
And do you know what those search terms and criteria were?
I don't remember those, sir.
prior to coming here today, did you look at documents to refresh your recollection at all on what the requests were?
Well, what I did, sir, is I went through and I just looked at the email trail to see the wins and when it was requested and when we responded.
Yeah, but those were some new search terms, right?
Yes, sir. Each time there were new search terms.
But you don't know what those were.
I don't recall, sir.
I'll get back to some of this stuff, but let me just look at one thing on number 2, which is the identity of electronic document management system individuals from the city manager, mayor, and council. Do you know who the identity of these folks are?
I can't say I understand the question as it's written, sir.
Yeah. What's the part you got a problem with there?
First of all, who are tasked with the city manager and mayor and council? What does that mean?
Well,
It doesn't make any sense.
does it make any sense to you, sir?
I'm sorry, speaking to me, sir.
Yeah. My question was, do the identity of electronic, do you know what electronic document management system is?
Yes, sir.
And are there individuals who are tasked with various city departments to be I have, give me a, I'll just mark it. What's 15? I'll show you a document that I believe is attached to the access, production, and retention of city records administrative directory. And attached to it, it's called Attachment A, which I just marked as Exhibit 15. And it has a blank space, and it appears to me that each department, it says the department further agrees to assign one or more electronic document management system liaisons for the purpose of collaborating with the city records manager. And so when I asked the city to identify the individuals who were tasked with the city manager, mayor, and council, and the involvement of those persons with the search, that's what I'm referring to.
My understanding of the use of this was if you had a specific need to support documents. I don't know, I personally don't know if this went to everybody in the city. I believe, my understanding, is that it was done on a case-by-case basis. Like if you wanted to store payroll records or something specific.
Well, you're familiar with these, this type, these type of administrative directors, right, as a city employee?
I'm sorry, could you rephrase that question? Am I familiar with that directive, or am I familiar with all the directives, or what a directive is? I'm sorry.
As a city employee, you are familiar with what are called administrative directories, are you not?
Directives, yes, sir.
Yeah. And what I've shown you is something that was attached to the administrative directory, 1.05-3, relating to access, production, and retention of city records. Are you aware that the city has administrative directives relating to the retention of city records?
Yes, I'm aware of that there is an AD referencing these.
Okay, and let me show you what's on, this would be page 4 of 7 of that one. And under item 7, SIRE EDMS authorization, section B, it says each department must identify key staff as EDMS liaisons.
I'm sorry, you said each? Where are you reading? Because I'm seeing the department.
That's right, excuse me. I do apologize. It says the department. Under A, it says departments must complete an EDS authorization request. And then B, the department, which I take it, since B follows A, applies to all departments, must identify key staff as EDMS liaisons. Is that, you know if they've done that, or are those the rules, or do I not understand? I don't know.
This,
Explain it.
I believe, the EDMS system is not used for all records. We hope to get there, but we are not there. So my understanding of how this works and how the form works is that when you have something that you want to start putting into the document management system, you fill this out and you get a liaison to that, to the, I guess it's the clerk's office here, to work with them on how the record's going.
Okay. Let me see if I can ask some questions about the whole city. What system does the city of Tucson use to archive email, calendaring, voice system, shared folders, and document management?
Okay, we'll have to take those individually because there's not a system that does them all. And we don't necessarily have an email archiving system at all.
What does the city of Tucson use group-wise?
Yes, sir.
Well, what does the city of Tucson use group-wise for?
It's the email system. As far as being able to send and receive emails, calendar, do things of that nature.
And is it also, okay, so the group-wise system is used by the city for archiving emails?
Can we define archiving? Because I want to be clear, I want to make sure I answer correctly.
What does that word mean to you?
Well, archiving would mean that you have a system, and then you take them and you specifically save them off somewhere.
Mhm. Well,
And
does,
we
okay.
don't have an enterprise type position on that. We don't necessarily take them and save them off. We back up the current system, but we don't archive. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
No, actually, I don't.
I'm
So
sorry.
maybe you could give it a little.
Okay.
You save the systems, don't you?
We back them up, yes, sir. I would consider, so if I can kind of try to explain, I would consider an archive like an export of those that you specifically save, as you would an archive like a library or something. We take basically backup snapshots of the current system.
Well, group-wise houses documents in libraries, don't they?
GroupWise stores email in their system.
Which, does the city of Tucson use GroupWise 7.0.3?
I don't know if that's the current version we're on or not, sir. I couldn't answer that.
Okay. Well, let me, I don't either. So let me show you a document that at least is, purports to be a City of Tucson Information Technology Department document that, lists the system that the City of Tucson uses.
I have no reason to believe that that's not true, but I couldn't testify that that is still the current system we're on. Last time that document was updated was, I said back in, I think, 2000. It's been at least a year, I think, since that document got updated. I couldn't tell you if the system's still at 7.03 or not.
Okay?
I'd suggest we mark that document.
Huh?
I'd suggest we mark that.
Sure.
Can we take a quick break? Time is 2:23 for a tape change. Time is 2:24. We're back on the record.
I've marked as Exhibit 16, the City of Tucson Information Technology Policy and Procedures 6-page document. It's dated approved May 15th, 2011. And that's the document I showed.
Yes.
Okay. Does the City of Tucson use any other systems or software to assist with document and data management?
There's probably a few document management systems out there, and it would depend on your definition of a document management system. So each system can retain its own documents. So our financial system retains its own documents, the HR system retains its own documents, streets and things retain their own documents.
Okay, let's say, okay, you said that financial does?
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, are those just the finance documents, or when they communicate with the city manager or communicate with somebody else? Are those records kept in separate systems?
Now, when you say communicate, are we referring to like email again?
Yeah, probably.
Email, I don't believe there's email in there. I believe you can possibly communicate, but I'm not aware of people using that or how it's used.
Okay. Other than this Novell group-wide system, does the city use any other systems or software concerning its communications within the city?
It's hard to say. I would say, depending on your definition of communication, I'll give you an example. So the agenda system for mayor and council, it has a workflow management that you can, you submit what you want to go to mayor and council, and it goes along the approval process and becomes, something in the agenda. So that could be considered a communication. I guess I'm asking you what you consider a communication.
Okay, so that's a communication. So what system is that, and is that part of this group-wise product system?
It uses GroupWise, but it keeps the email portion in GroupWise. So what it'll do is, let's say I have to approve something, it will send me an email saying, hey, you have something to approve, put a link back to there, to the program.
Okay. So, does GroupWise allow you to maintain official documents of record?
Allow you to maintain official documents of record. Could it? I think it's a possibility, yes. I couldn't say for sure.
Uh, Does it automatically do full text indexing?
Full text
Text index.
index. I couldn't answer that question. I don't know how it indexes its,
Does it allow, the system allow for instant searching?
instant searching. It will allow for it. My understanding is it will allow for it, but only within specific accounts.
Does it, does it allow you to do full text searching?
I couldn't say for sure, but I believe it does.
Does it permit customized searches?
Customized searches. You can change the search criteria. That's what I would call a customized search.
And does it full text index emails?
I couldn't answer that, sir.
Does it full text index documents like Microsoft Word, Excel, Publisher, and PDF files?
I know you, if they're attached to emails, you can, there's certain capabilities. What exactly that does, I don't know. We can search for things, but does it do a full text index or whatever you were saying? I don't know, sir.
Does it full text index calendar items?
I couldn't tell you that, sir.
Does it full text index voicemail messages?
As far as I know, the GroupWise system has nothing to do with voicemail, unless it's put in as like a phone message or something. When I say put in, that would be somebody said, hey, you got a phone call, and there's like a phone record or something.
Does it full text index tasks?
I couldn't answer that either, sir.
And do the attachments come with the emails when they're printed out?
When they're printed out, it gives you the option to print out an attachment or not.
And how does that work?
So, you mean the printing of an attachment?
Yeah, I mean, I take it when you're searching for emails, you said it gives you the option. How does it give you that option?
Well, basically the way it works in the search is we do the search, and then there'll be a email and have attachment on it, and we'll save it. We'll save both of those things.
When you retrieve it, and you say, okay, retrieve, print off the email, does it automatically print off the attachments as well?
Not automatically, no, sir. I don't believe so.
Well, how do you get the email is also, the attachment saved, right?
Right. When you're talking about a search that we're doing, is that the context we're talking about?
Yeah. Okay.
So if you're doing a search, you would save both the email and the attachment. It will, as far as I know, from my recollection, it won't do both automatically. You have to go in there and select it.
Yeah. Do you you select it when you start out saying, I want all emails and attachments, or does it say, oop, there's an attachment and then there's an inquiry, do you want this? In other words, how's attachments dealt with? When you're doing a search, something that comes up with your search term is an email with an attachment, and you're gonna send that to Dennis McLaughlin. Do you send him the attachments?
I believe we do, sir.
Okay. And that would, if you send the email, that automatically goes to him at the same time, right?
No, sir, there's not much automatic about this. It's a very manual and labor-intensive process.
Okay, describe how it works.
So when we have a search criteria, we basically go into an account.
Okay, so let's say in this case, can you, can you recall any of the search criterias that you used?
No, sir, I couldn't,
Okay.
not any of them.
Well, let's pretend that you had one that said project study as one.
Okay, so that's a search term?
Yeah, yeah, that's the search term, project study. Then how does it work when you go to?
Well, we'll get into a mailbox and we will run a search for that criteria, what you call it, project study. And then my understanding is that anything that GroupWise can find with those search terms in it will come up.
And when you say we get in a mailbox, what do you mean by that?
So we have to go into, my understanding is that we have to go into an individual's mailbox to do the search. So we would go into, so if we were instructed to search person A, B, C, D, and E, we would go into person's A's email box, do the search, and then go into person's B email box and do the search, and then go into person C's email box and do the search. That's my understanding.
Okay, but aren't there, is it called directory? I forget what the word is. Aren't there like sort of groups of people that will be sending emails back using the same project study line?
Well, that's why we have a list of email accounts to search. We don't have a all-encompassing. We have to go into specific email accounts and search.
Okay, and so when you did whatever search you all did, you were given a list of specific email accounts?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but the city's not prepared to tell us what those email accounts were?
I don't have that with me.
Yeah. And does the city retrieve the emails in a PST format?
PST.
Yeah, PST.
Not sure what that is.
Okay. I believe that it stands for Select Personal Folder. This is the email system for GroupWise. Does the term select folder file, PST, that you're not familiar with?
No, sir.
Okay. Are you familiar with rich text format?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Would you describe what that is, please?
Rich text format is like, if you just have straight text, all it does is remember the characters. So the alphabet, the numbers, that's all you're gonna get. You're not gonna get fonts, you're not gonna get colors, you're not gonna get things of that nature. You're just gonna get the text. Rich text allows you to do more formatting. Bolding, different fonts, different colors, things of that nature. So it's just a way to aesthetically format text better.
Okay. So, when you retrieve emails in the group-wise system, and are there, what form are they retrieved in?
I believe when we save them, they're just saved as a doc, and I'm not quite sure what exactly that is. I know the email comes out, with all its text, and it looks a little better than just a straight text, so I'm assuming there's some formatting in there, but I couldn't tell you what exactly format they use.
Does the city use Outlook as part of the group-wise system?
That's not part of our maintained solution. Outlook could also be a client, so I can't say that nobody uses it, but we don't authorize, or I don't believe we do anything with Outlook that I'm aware of.
Did you look at the shared folders?
Did I look at, the documents that were sent back to Mr. McLaughlin?
I guess what I'm saying is, I think different people have testified that they had what I believe the term is shared folders. Does that does that term mean anything to you?
It could mean a lot of things in a lot of different ways. A shared folder basically is a folder that two people can have access to.
Yeah,
Or more.
Or more. And did you search any shared folders?
We searched individual accounts. I can't tell you if the folders, they had shared them or not. It really wouldn't matter to us. If that person can see that folder, it was part of the search. In email.
Okay, I'm gonna understand that. Let's say that the emails that you looked for one person, Chris Castellinos, let's say Chris, shared a folder with several other people. When you pulled up Chris Castellinos' emails, does that bring out everything that's in that shared folder, whether he printed it out or not?
I honestly can't answer that one.
Okay, so if I understand shared folders, correct me if I don't, is, let's say there's 8 people that have authority to go into a shared folder. And would I be correct that, let's say there's a shared folder for Grand Canyon University, and then only individuals who are authorized can go into that shared folder? Is that the way it works?
If we're referring to email, there would have to be a shared folder set up by a user, and then they would have to share it to other people.
Just a moment, please. I'm gonna get educated later. Okay. Okay. What if there are shared folders that include documents, right? And other things other than emails?
Around the city, yes.
Yeah. So, tell me how the shared folder system operates outside of emails. What is that system?
From my understanding, what I know about, so let's just say what I do know about. So we may have a file system, either Novell or Microsoft Active Directory, and you can set up a folder that multiple people can get to.
Okay.
Yes.
And what's it called? Is shared folder the term?
I'm sure there's a technical term for it, sir, but I don't know. I would say shared folder is what I know it by, yeah.
Okay. And what kind of stuff is, can be put into a shared folder?
If we're talking again, not email, and it's a folder on a file system, any electronic, anything can be put in there. I mean, it would just be like it would be just like you saving a file to your C drive or another folder. It's just another folder, just with the access rights having multiple people being able to get to.
Yeah. And if you searched email, you wouldn't get all the stuff that's in a shared folder.
If the shared folder, if we're not talking about, some sort of like in email shared folder or something, we're talking about just shared folders out in the file system, no, a search like that would not get something.
Yeah. In this case, did you search any shared folders for documents, that kind of shared folder?
Outside of the email system, I do not believe we did. We as in IT, excuse me. My response is basically, again, tailored towards IT. We in IT.
Sure, yeah. But are you aware whether anyone in the city of Tucson searched shared document folders related to these projects?
I can't tell you if it happened, but I do know that when I first contacted the city attorney's office, that was their intent, was to see what departments could get from those types of directories and file systems and hard copies and things.
Do you know, and how do you know that was their intent?
Because when I sent my original request to the city attorney's office, initially, we were instructed to wait until we got the search criteria, and because they wanted to see what the affected departments could come up with before making IT do a search. And that's fairly common.
So your understanding was, if I followed that the city attorney's office is managing this search, right?
They're my partner interacting with that. Who's the lead on it, I couldn't tell you, but they're the ones that we deal with in doing it.
Okay. And they were saying that they wanted each individual department to see what that department could get before they would ask you to get stuff.
Again, I just want to say the email was.
Do you have that email there?
I don't. I just wrote down basically, and I don't know if I did it exactly, so it might even be paraphrased, so I apologize about that. But I wrote down here, see what affected departments can come up with before making IT do a search. That was the reasoning for just waiting at that point.
Okay. And do you know what the departments came up with?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, would there be any impediment for any of those departments to obtain all of the documents that would have been in a shared folder?
I don't know. I can't think of an impediment right now.
So the city manager, for instance, could say from his employees what shared folders, well, let me ask you this. Let's say the city manager wanted to know within his department what shared folders were being utilized by his employees. Could he find that out from your department?
Could he find it out? Yeah, but I mean, we have hundreds, thousands of folders. That would be a difficult thing to kind of say, can you tell me which ones are shared? I mean, we could, I mean, I think you can tell you know, I think there might even be an icon or something that'll tell you if it's shared. But, could we do it? Yeah, they could make a request like that, and I believe we could tell them, yeah, I believe it.
Okay, so he could do it that way electronically, or he could go around the office and ask people. There'd be a variety of ways he could find out what share folders were utilized by employees of the city manager's office.
Well, I just would like to be clear, you've put a accent on shared, and I don't know if they would know it was shared. They would just see a folder, you know, I don't know if they would know it was shared or not.
Well, let's say he found out and discovered that employees in my department on these projects are utilizing a shared folder.
Mhm.
Okay?
Yes.
City manager finds that out. Can he then access and get everything that's in those folders?
It would depend if he had access to that folder.
It would depend if the city manager had access.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but if his employee, Tom, had access, Tom could get everything that's in that folder, right?
Yes.
And Mary and Jane and every person that had access to the folder could get all the contents of the folder.
Everybody who had rights, and had rights to see the things in the folder, could get stuff out of it.
Yeah. There was a, but nonetheless, the IT department made no searches of shared folders, correct? You were not requested to do so.
We were not requested to do anything outside of email that I recall.
Yeah.
I have documentation.
When you request, well, you did request emails of various individuals unknown at this time with search terms that are unknown, correct?
I got the request from the city attorney's office and then passed it to my person who does the actual search.
What format were those emails in?
The emails between myself and the city attorneys, and I'm confused, I'm sorry.
Okay. Unknown city employee has emails and they're saved in your system, correct? Your emails are saved. You searched saved emails.
Yes, sometimes it's a backup and sometimes it's in the system. I mean, it depends the search date and the criteria.
Okay, but you did that. You, or at least the city, did a search of some emails
Absolutely, sir.
for some people
Yes, sir.
using some search terms.
Yes, sir.
What format was that stuff stored in? Like if you print it out, what format does it come out in?
Well, I believe when you save it, the format of the attachment, if there's an attachment on it, would come out as whatever it is. If it's an Excel document, it comes out as an Excel document. If you save a the email itself, like the text, it comes out, I believe we saved it in a .doc. But I don't know that for sure.
When, mark this. Mark this as vacant. Just a little question, I want to show you what's marked as 17, and my question will relate to the top line. What's the date on that top line?
On the top line, it's May 17th, 2013.
What does that mean?
I believe if this was printed directly from the email account, I believe it means that was the date it was printed.
Okay, so the email itself is dated May 10th, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so so if we see a document and this thing's on top, that means that on May 17th, somebody went back into the system and printed out this email.
I believe that is correct, sir.
Okay. And would it also mean that Chris Casalemas was the person who printed it? I mean, so like on the top it says Chris Casalemas, Grand Canyon, and on the right, I don't know, C1, whatever that is. What does that stuff tell us?
Well, I don't know what that is.
And by that you mean
I'm sorry, the term in the upper right-hand
the
corner.
SEITE 1 or something like that?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is, and I can't say for sure, but I believe it's the person who prints the email. And then the subject of the email next to it. I believe that's the format that when you print it, it comes out.
And why would that subject be next to the name?
I think that's just how, when you print something out or in group-wise, that's what it just kind of adds to it at the time you print it.
So, did the person add it, or if the email had a subject line, does it automatically put that subject line up?
I believe it automatically does. That's my understanding.
Okay, and Chris Casalemas is not listed as a person who sent or received this email.
Yes, it is right there, sir.
Ah, okay. So, let me ask on number 18. Would you take a look at that?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell, is that, has that been printed in a rich text format?
It looks to be, sir, because I can see it looks like the font size is different between the top line and the rest of the lines.
Does, when these little arrow-shaped things, what do you call those?
Greater than?
Huh?
Greater than signs?
What are they?
Greater than?
Greater than? Okay.
Yeah, it's a,
Yeah, so, when this was printed out then, this strips out the information the metadata on the top, at least a portion of it, right?
Yes, I believe there's two ways of doing it. If you print it straight out, I believe it gives you the topmost bar that shows you who printed it and when. When you save it as a document, I don't believe it gives you that topmost piece up there.
Better, okay. So when, within your system, all the emails that are saved do contain this complete information, don't they? And by complete, I say from, to, date, subject, CC, so forth.
For that email, yes, it has that information, all of
Okay, so
them. Yes.
all of the emails that, if you search your system, all those emails will contain all of the to, from, subject, so forth information, correct?
For that email, the from, to, date, and subject should be on every email and available to print or to save, yes.
Okay. And when you do your search and retrieve all of those emails, all that information comes up as well, doesn't it?
This is kind of the way, it's pretty manual how it works, unfortunately. It's basically when you put in the search criteria and all that kind of thing that you're searching for, it comes up with a list of documents. And then to go in, you have to, that doesn't give you, it might give you a to or from just showing you the basic header stuff, but it doesn't even show you email until you click on it and go in, or you save it out. You can save it from right there also.
Well, you, your office, you said was asked to look up certain email accounts.
Yes, sir.
And when you found emails, all of those emails would have had to, from, date, subject, CCs, correct?
If CCs were available, yeah.
Yeah. And when, and they have the attachments, correct?
They should, yes, sir.
Yeah. And so when you retrieve all of those emails, then you're retrieving all of that information in each of those emails.
Yes, sir. On an individual basis, we retrieve what you see there, either saved out into a file. Let's get into it. Secretary.
Okay. So, then, if we're looking at an 18, why isn't that information on these other emails? Why is that not on this printed copy?
Okay, so that's what I meant by that individual email. So when you open an email, it will have this for that email. But when you send a forward or do a reply, it puts in that kind of a header there to signify a break between the emails. So for instance, you send me an email and, hey, how you doing? Okay, great. I say reply. As soon as I hit reply, it puts that little header in there. It doesn't retain all this. It just puts that header in there. And then I start typing, hey, I'm doing great. Send it back to you. So it would have, hey, I'm doing great. It would have just that little header with the greater than signs and then the previous email, if I selected it to be included in the email.
Okay. And so if you wanted, for instance, okay, so what we're seeing here is, this is 18 is Nicole Ewing Gavin sent an email to Albert Elias, Chris Castellanos, and why is Kelly's name cut off?
Well, unfortunately, when you save or print these things out, it doesn't format them to where it wraps the line. It just goes right off and only prints as much as it can.
Okay. So could there have been 3 or 4 other people?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Could there have been?
But that's saved within your system. You can look at that email and know who received this email.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
For this one right here.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
just number 18, and I'm looking only at this first part. Okay, so we don't know from this the total number of persons who received this particular email, correct?
From that, sir, no.
Okay. And going below that, there's one that says Mike Rankin, and then there's an email that he had sent that Nicole is responding to. Is that right?
From just what you're showing me here, that's what it appears.
Yeah. And we don't know who he sent that, all the persons who received his email,
Not from that, sir.
or the subject. We don't know that.
For
Or
sure,
do
do you
we?
know the subject? But the subject, when you hit reply or you hit forward, the subject automatically populates with the previous message's subject. Can you change it? Yes, so I can't say
Okay.
it was for sure that subject, but usually people just hit reply and that's why you see the and the forward there showing you that was the subject, and then somebody forwarded it and then somebody replied to it.
If he had had an attachment to his, would that be shown here?
No, sir.
And then going down the next, in this example, Nicole apparently sent an email on beforehand, right? Well, actually, stuff started at the bottom. Is this called a string? What do you call this?
I think it's called a thread.
Thread?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So Chris started this thread, right? At least as shown on 18.
You can't tell.
Yeah.
That is all adjustable. I mean, so it looks that way from there. If I'm just going by what I see there, yeah, it looks like he started it. But could somebody have said, wow, this email is way too long, I'm gonna lop off the bottom half of it? Yeah, somebody could do that.
Okay. And again, so to get all of this complete information, you, within the system, could you, is Grand Canyon doesn't indicate that that's, for instance, a shared folder. That's just
That's just a subject.
the subject, right? And to get all this information, then do you have to go to Chris's email and Nicole's email and Mike's to get the complete emails?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But if you had been asked to do that, then you actually could get the complete emails for each of these individuals.
It depends on the timing. If those were older than what was on the tape, then I couldn't get those for you. But anything that was in the system when we did the search, we could provide.
Okay, what do you mean by tape?
Well, if we bring back a backup of the system,
Yeah,
we don't, again, it's kind of, we don't necessarily archive, we back up what's on the live system.
yeah,
So, when we have to search a time that we can't get to through the live system, we have to go restore a post office and do the search in that post office.
okay. So, what's the time limit on your live system?
The time limit on the live system, I believe, is 90 days. It starts putting things into trash, and then trash, I'm not sure, it holds it maybe 7 or 14 days. I'm not sure about that.
Okay. But even at that point, you can go into the post office and find the documents.
If they're there, yes.
Yeah, yeah. And for what period of time can you go back and find those?
It depends. We usually have a rotating time amount. It's usually another 90 days.
And then what happens to them?
The tapes rotate off and get overwritten by another backup.
So after 180 days, then documents can be disappeared permanently?
Yes, sir, unless they're printed or saved out as a file or something.
Okay, so if for one reason or another, the city delays looking for documents for 180 days, then maybe they can never be found. Is that what you're saying?
There's a time frame that we can search, and it's on a rotating time frame. So it's based upon when we do the search, or if we have those things already kind of queued up. For instance, when we did the original search, I believe, I'm not sure, but I believe we kept the information queued up in case there was any follow-up queries or something we needed to do.
Well, what do you mean by you kept the information queued up?
When we have to do a search, we basically have to reinstall the post office and break into the account. That's how we have to do a search. So I'm not positive, but I believe you can keep, like, we kept some of those post offices around in case there was another search to do.
Okay, but that only related to emails?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How about documents? How long, something, let's say, in a shared folder documents, how long are they kept in the system?
That's tough. I mean, they can be kept forever. I don't know that we purge. I personally do not know that we purge anything. That would be probably the clerk's office and the department who owns the data figuring out how long we keep that stuff.
So is that on different tapes then?
That's different tapes, yes, sir.
Yeah. What's the difference in the tapes and system between how the emails are stored and how the documents are?
Emails are stored in GroupWise, and other documents, other folders would be stored on a Novell, or, well, actually, they'd be on the actual system unless somebody deleted them. I don't believe they go away or have any kind of time limit, except if the clerk's office sets something up. But the tapes would rotate I can't tell you how often they rotate those. I don't know. And we actually may have various backup programs.
Okay. So, how can I find out what SEITE1 is? Do you know?
How could you find out? I would Google it.
If you want my guess,
Yeah.
Seite is the German name for page. It's page 1.
Oh, okay.
I think we've had a problem in the past with one of our versions where it's thrown in a German word now and again. It's a multinational, multicultural kind of.
Could be worse, could be Japanese and, probably harder to Google those.
Yes.
This is, want to show you a document to see maybe you could marked as 19. You have a copy there? somewhere?
Yeah, yes, thanks.
Actually, you use the one with the mark on it, so. The, so the bottom A006132.RTF, what's that signify?
I'm not sure.
Does the RTF, is that rich text file?
I would, that's what I thought when I read it.
And this, what's the top stuff
That's a URL.
of what?
It looks like this is a link to a document in the Sire documentation management system.
Okay. Is this one of those shared folders, shared drives?
Okay. Not as we were discussing. I was talking about file systems, folders, and drives. A document management system does have kind of a file folder structure behind the scenes, but this kind of points to where that is, just like if it was in a directory, just like if you were doing a lookup on the web, you know, each piece of this tells it where to go.
Well, I can't type in that and go there, can I?
Well, it says cache, so if it's still in the cache, you could. If it's not in the cache, then you couldn't, but I mean, technically, if that document was still there in that position on the server, yeah, you could type that very thing in and get it.
So, this supposedly Diana Rhodes sent this, correct?
That's what it appears, sir.
Yeah. Why's the rest of the stuff that ordinarily we see on an email not on this?
I couldn't answer that, sir.
Can we go off the record 1 second?
Yeah.
Time is 3:15 and we're going off. The time is 3:26 and we're back on the record.
Oh. I wanna understand, explain what the search you did. And first, since you were here to testify about the efforts to identify public records, and what you're prepared to testify about was email accounts of certain individuals with certain search terms. And you can't recall any of that. We've gone over that. Do you have, can you get me a document? Is that in a document? Something that would show the search terms and the email accounts, the things that you search for?
I believe we still have that document, yes.
Yeah, and is it one sheet, 2 sheets? Is it?
It's probably an email thread between Dennis and I.
Okay. Well, I just want to be clear. I specifically would like if you would get me a copy of that.
And we'll discuss whether that's privileged or not.
Fine.
Yeah,
But
I understand your request.
When you searched, what database did you search?
The group-wise system is what we searched.
And did you search the backup copies?
Well, that's what I'm referring to. I don't know if it was a combination of live and backups or what it was, but I do know I know that we did have to lay down some post offices so that we could get in and do the search as requested.
Okay, so, but you don't know whether you search standalone backup copies? That you don't know?
My understanding is that we had to bring some post offices back, install them so we could do the searches. That's my understanding.
And is what you did within that search, that's information that you could retrieve and provide as well, couldn't you? As to your process of what you went into, which backup copies, what you had to restore in the post office. That stuff you talked about, that would be retained in the system and you could provide us with that.
I don't know that we could, I'm not sure if we could or could not.
So, when you, describe a little more so I understand, when you said you went into the post office, what did you do?
Well, the person who did the search, from my understanding, here's how it works. So when we have to search an account, we have to restore the post office, and then we have to break into that account and then do the searches in that account.
Okay. And what do you mean by restore the post office?
If we have a backup of the post office on tape, then you just can't read an email off the tape. Everything's password protected. We don't even have access to it. We would have to basically bring the post office back, break into the account as like a system administrator, or get the password, or do something that would allow us to get into that account.
Okay, so you have access to, and you go into the post office directory, or what?
Well, basically what it is the post office is kind of an exact copy of the email system as it existed at that time. So you basically have to, my understanding is that we reinstall that post office system to a server so that, or the file of that, so that we can basically go in, just like we were going into an email account, and do a search.
So, as of, so when you're searching the email for, do you know what time period you were searching for?
I don't recall that. It was part of the criteria, whatever was sent to us.
Okay. So if you were searching for documents from February, starting in January 2013, and you could look into and you're only looking at email, so those items from January and February, would they be in the data system when you look for those?
If we're doing a search, when are we doing the search?
And you tell me when you did the search.
Oh, okay. I can give you the approximate time frame. There's a time frame in between the time that it was asked for and the time we gave it back. So within there, in theory, it'd be 180 days back from search it, unless we had those post offices.
Okay, so what date was that?
Well, the first one was done between 9/12, and we sent the results back 10/8. I don't know when we actually pulled the tapes or did any of that.
Well, you're unlikely to have held them around for a long time.
Unlikely, yeah. Yes.
Okay, so it's sometime between 9/12?
And 10/8.
Yeah. So, let's, just for our purposes, let's just pick 9/12. Let's assume you guys are right on and then sat on them for 3 weeks, either way. So from 9/12, 180 days, that's basically 6 months.
Yeah, no, I agree. 180 days is 6 months. I'm just thinking about you're talking about just the total time back, and I'm trying to think through it in the system. I want to make sure I don't say anything incorrectly. Yeah, I mean, basically, you're talking 90 days of live system and then tapes that contain 90 days.
Okay. So, emails from January, February, that's more than 180 days back, isn't it?
Let's see, in August, that's 8. So, well, in September, that would be 7, or excuse me, 9 minus 6, that'd be 3, yeah, so it'd be earlier than, January and February would be earlier than that.
So would you be able to find any emails from January and February 2013?
Just looking at the parameters we've discussed, I wouldn't think we'd be able to do that.
Yeah. And is there, are there other parameters that, let's say, that you're asked, look, it's really important to find emails from January, February, March, can you find them?
If they exist, we can find them, and like if there was another, let's say, public information request, then we would look there too. But if we don't, the tapes roll off.
Yeah. So,
Just want to note, I need to either be finished or recess in about 9 minutes.
um, the I have a your group wise system. I was just looking at a document related to group wise, and it mentions as a feature that they have full text searching with support for full Boolean operators. Does your system have those?
I believe it can do full text, but I don't know that for sure. And as far as Boolean operators, I'm not even sure what they mean by that. Boolean operator is just a yes, no, true, false kind of thing. I'm not sure what bearing that would have.
It says here that the unmatched capability to search document contents as well as other data types increases your capability to find needed information. Not only will users find documents, but also email messages, voicemail messages, images, faxes, calendar items, and tasks that meet search criteria. Are all those capabilities part of the city's system?
I don't know that we store faxes or any of that in the Novell system per se. Can you attach almost anything to an email? Yes, but we don't, that's not like a EDMS where we store other things like voicemails and other things that you mentioned there.
We take a break, change tape. Time is 3:38. The time is 3:39, and we're back on the record.
When my client made a public records request on the 13th of May, the city clerk's office on that date sent an email to various departments within the city asking that each of those departments respond directly to the requester and forward a copy of the letter. So let me show you what's, this is my only copy of this thing with my writings all over it. But do you know if that's the kind of information, since it went to a number of departments, that would also go to the IT department? Are you all alerted of public records requests?
Basically, the way it works, I mean, the way it's supposed to work and the way I usually do see it work is that you see how they put economic development department and city attorney's office?
Yeah.
So when they put people in there, that's who they send it to. So I don't see every public records request that comes through. I only see the ones that they designate need to go to IT, and this one was not designated to go to IT.
Okay. And when you say you don't see it, are you the person within the IT department that would get, whenever there's a progression
Yes.
that they want the IT department to receive, does it
Yes.
come to you?
Yes,
Okay. So how often do you get those kind of requests?
it depends. Sometimes you get a lot. If there's a hot topic going on, you get a lot, and sometimes you don't, but they're pretty steady.
And you get those from the individual departments, from the city clerk's office?
It varies. I mean, normally it goes through the city clerk's office, gets a signed number and comes down, but sometimes it goes to individual departments and then comes to IT.
Okay, so if the city manager or the city clerk's office itself gets a request for a bunch of documents for months before, they can send it to the individual department and ask them to respond, or they can send it to your department, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then if the individual departments need any assistance, they can ask you for assistance.
Normally, if I get the request, I just go right to the city attorney's office to make sure that, if there's anything for us to do. But yes, I mean, they don't usually request us. Usually it comes from the city attorney's office. But they can, they could.
What I think we need to do, Mr. McLaughlin, is to adjourn the deposition again. You certainly have a reason to leave quick, but beyond that, the efforts, this witness, I don't think has really prepared on major categories. He can't tell us whose emails, what he looked for, what the any of that kind of stuff, which is basic. Let me ask you, I just noticed the one thing that you were going to testify about, and let me ask you, why didn't the city provide metadata as requested, do you know?
I I can only speak again to the IT portion, but the metadata, at least in the document I saw, was not requested.
Okay. So the, well, okay. So you're, let me see if I've got that answer right, is that had you been requested, the city could provide the metadata.
We'd have to clarify what you mean by metadata, because there's lots of various metadata. I mean, we talking about when it hits the system, when it comes into a gateway, you know, when it's laid down, when it's read, when, you know, there's lots of different types of metadata. We usually don't do that. It's very, very cumbersome to get that information.
Well, but there's a wide variety of metadata,
Mhm.
correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And how do you learn what metadata the requester is asking for in terms of the wide variety? You could communicate and say, well, what are you looking for in metadata here? And find out which type and what it is, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But what you're saying, if I understand your testimony, is that no one informed the IT department that Ms. Cruz had requested metadata.
Well, in looking at the request, it mentions metadata as far as documents and all the stuff there. Then it explicitly calls out emails later without metadata.
Okay, well, wait a minute, request, what document are you looking at? You're not looking at the May 13th request, are you?
No,
Okay.
and that wasn't really, I'm sure, it may have been addressed through the consolidated request, but that came as just if it came to us, it came as part of the just big search that we did.
Okay, but to be clear, the city attorney's office never informed the IT department that Ms. Cruz had requested metadata in her May 13, 2013 request.
As far as doing this request and as part of the request, no.
So then is it,
I have to get out of here.
okay. So anyway, I think that the city hasn't provided witnesses even for number 19. As to that, it's
Yeah.
simply not why the city hasn't done it, but simply that,
No, our position is that neither the May request nor the August request asked for metadata in terms of emails.
okay.
So we're not doing any more witnesses. So if you want to talk to him anymore, that's fine, otherwise you're gonna need to move to compel. The only issue is attorney's fees. And you've had over 6 hours of examination on a 30B6. So you get to explain to the judge why you need more time.
Well,
We think we've responded to everything sufficiently. I'm also going to note one objection. I've noticed that Mr. Brakey interacting with your client and with you, he's either the videographer or he's your expert. He's not both. I don't see any harm here because we have a dependable court reporter. But he doesn't get to be your expert and your videographer. So please remember that. And now I have to go.
okay.
Time is 3:48, and we're going off the record.